Tony Khan and AEW set to make a big announcement on AEW Dynamite. Also, we are going to be talking about Sasha Banks, AEW, WWE, NXT, and so much more news. All the timestamps in the description down below. WWE is set to do something very interesting here with the debut of Axiom. If you guys didn't know, WWE has been airing vignettes of this new wrestler that is coming to NXT. But really, it's a repackaged version of A-Kid from NXT UK. And the reason why I actually find this news so interesting is one or two things, really. So one, Axiom is going to be he's going to be under a mask. So they are taking A-Kid from NXT UK, moving him to NXT, putting him in a mask. And basically the gimmick is pretty simple. He's going to be a great technical wrestler that knows the perfect equations and whatever to understand how to wrestle and be a good wrestler. In the previous vignettes, they showed A-Kid without the mask. Now they are showing him with a mask, so he is being repackaged. The reason why I'm actually super interested in this particular re-debut, though, is because it appears to me that WWE is officially going by using NXT UK as a feeder system to NXT and eventually the main roster. A-Kid is one of the few people that have been moved over from NXT UK to America. We saw this happen with Walter, who then became Gunther. We saw this with Kaylee Ray, who then became Alba Fire. And now we are seeing this with Axiom. And then, of course, you can't forget about Pretty Deadly, and you can't forget about some of the others that have debuted. So my point that I'm making is NXT UK probably won't be too much of a brand in years to come. But I think WWE is definitely paying attention to the talent that are there in the UK that they have under contract, and now they are going to try and get their money's worth. To be honest with you, I'm all for it. The idea of him being under a mask, the presentation, the vignettes are cool. It sounds like he's going to be a little bit more technical, a little bit more high flying, and they're going to try to position it as such. This is going to be cool. I don't know if there's any luchadors or, wrestlers wearing a mask in NXT. I can't think of one that comes to mind. So this is actually pretty cool. We'll see what happens. Hopefully WWE gets it figured out. They have a lot of talent in the UK. You might as well start using them in a way that makes sense. And then hopefully WWE doesn't get lost in its direction and actually try to push these people to the main roster and actually give them a successful run for the main roster. Speaking of the main roster, guys, we got to talk about Big E. Of course, a very successful name on WWE's main roster. Obviously, there's been a lot of talks about Big E and his injury. And now it appears that there is some good news for those who are interested in seeing Big E return. So doctors are saying that Big E will, in fact, make a complete recovery from his broken neck. Now, it's unclear how long he will be out of the ring, but he will be getting checked 1 year after the injury, which would be then March 2023. This is one of those things where Big E, man, this could have led to a stroke, paralysis. It could have killed him. Like literally the injury that Big E sustained on SmackDown it's a brutal injury. And the good thing is, while it's so unfortunate that it's happened, the good news is that Big E will be all right, and he's showing good signs of success, and there is a lot of good to come from this. Now, obviously, health comes first. I've said this so many times. Before you could think about wrestling returns, before you could think about, championship reigns and big opportunities and big storylines and all of that other jazz, obviously, the health comes first. But I imagine when Big E does come back to WWE, whether it's a Royal Rumble match, whether it's an episode of Raw or SmackDown or whatever it may be, I imagine that Big E will probably get one of the biggest pops ever. Like, it is going to be an extremely huge reaction from the crowd, because I think a lot of times, not only is Big E just one of the most over baby faces that WWE has had, but at this point too, just to see him come back from this, it's truly a blessing. And I think, a lot of people are going to be excited for Big E when he returns. And I hope, again, I hope he makes that clean, clear recovery. But I can't wait to see him back. I think the WWE product misses Big E. I think the WWE universe misses him. And I think it's going to be a good thing when he eventually does. And whether it takes a year or two or whatever it may be, once he's 100%, I imagine Big E returning to the ring will be a massive, massive moment for not only his career, but for the fans as well. Sasha Banks. A lot of talk about Sasha Banks. And of course, there's a lot of talks about her and whether or not she's with WWE or not with WWE. And I mentioned to you guys, I've been following along with the story that Sasha Banks has basically, she's not with the company. She's no longer listed internally. Naomi as well. Now, because of social media and because of Instagram and changing the bio from superstar to pro wrestler and stuff, there is a lot of people talking on social media that they believe Sasha Banks will be at AEW All Out. And of course, with rumors like this, you got to take it with a grain of salt. I always take it with a grain of salt. However, if Sasha Banks is going to continue wrestling and she's not going to be wrestling under the WWE umbrella, I do not imagine a scenario where Sasha Banks goes anywhere other than AEW. So while these rumors are very, very, shaky and maybe they're not the best things to go off of, there's no report suggesting that AEW is in talks with Sasha Banks or anything like that. But if Sasha Banks does actually find herself at AEW, it's going to happen at AEW. Like if she finds herself wrestling after this, it will be AEW. I think it's very certain that Tony Khan has the money to make it happen. Also, Tony Khan has not re-signed a lot of talent. I think Tony Khan is also in a situation where obviously that next TV deal is going to be paying a lot of money. If this is a free agent that's on the market, you have to sign this free agent. It's just one of those things you just have to do. Now, with that being said, when and where would Sasha Banks debut? Well, technically speaking, we don't really know if there is a non-compete clause. We don't know any of this information because it's not public. But AEW is set to make a big announcement for AEW All Out. And the idea is that AEW will, in fact, announce all the details surrounding AEW All Out. Now, based on this announcement, will be very telling because if AEW, which there had been rumors at a point in time that AEW was going to try doing a stadium show, and I felt like there was really nothing to those rumors. However, if AEW decides to do, like the Chicago Cubs stadium or the White Sox stadium or something like that, if they decide to do Wrigley Field, for example, and then you bring in Sasha Banks for All Out, it will be a sellout. You would probably have to announce it ahead of time, but I feel like there is a lot of ways to bring in Sasha Banks into the company. But if you're AEW, you would probably be doing it at AEW All Out. You're going to try to get the most bang for your buck. And obviously with AEW set to announce all the details for AEW All Out, tonight, essentially, I think it's going to be a very, very telling announcement. Based on what they announce will basically dictate what to expect. You never know with AEW. It's expected to be in Chicago, but I imagine Sasha Banks, AEW All Out, it doesn't get bigger than that. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below.